Hi all, my name is Max Lesser, and I'm presenting on behalf of the DISARM Foundation. Today we're going to be talking about countering Russian misinformation, disinformation, malinformation, and influence campaigns in Italy surrounding the Russian invasion of Ukraine. And this presentation is based off of a paper I wrote with Hallie J. Stern and Sara-Jayne Terp, both also with the DISARM Foundation. We're going to make two primary claims here. The first is that cross-platform vectors of attack are used by incident creators in misinformation, disinformation, and malinformation campaigns, what we're going to refer to as MDM moving forward. The second is that the DISARM framework can serve as a bridge between analysis and response by mapping connections between incident creator and responder techniques, tactics, and procedures, or TTPs. To demonstrate this, we're going to look at two case studies, and we're going to outline the incident creator TTPs in both the denial of the Russian involvement in the Bucha massacre and allegations of U.S. biological laboratories beneath the Azovstal steel mill. And in addition, we're going to then present responder TTPs that can be used by responders engaging in counter MDM efforts to help counter these campaigns. So first, I'd like to contend that MDM extends far beyond social media. Many counter MDM efforts focus primarily on social media. Many of these efforts involve monitoring and moderating social media, but MDM actually extends beyond online platforms. In fact, we see MDM amplified with traditional media, such as television, radio, and print. And considering the cross-platform TTPs that are used by incident creators or attackers, counter MDM responders should accordingly move beyond a primary focus on social media. So just to provide a brief overview of MDM in the Italian media environment, over a third of Italian online news sites are ranked at a high or maximum risk category for MDM by the Global Disinformation Index. And the Italian public appears aware of MDM in their information ecosystem. In fact, over the past 5 years, Italians' overall trust in online news and platforms decreased by almost 20%. And almost 70% claim that fake news is prevalent in online news and platforms. And now, just to provide some context, provide a picture of the extent of Russian influence in the Italian information ecosystem. There have been 13,831 documented instances of MDM in the Italian information ecosystem since 2014, and this is according to Copasir. Apologies if I mispronounced that. And these, I just want to stress, are only the documented instances, so there very well may be more. And we also see just to look at two significant examples of this and recent examples of this. The Russian Minister of Foreign Affairs appeared on the Italian TV show, again, apologies if I'm mispronouncing, Zona Bianca. And here he dismissed Zelensky's Jewish heritage in order to advance his claim that Ukraine is under Nazi rule. And then he denied the Russian role in the Bucha massacre. And then we also saw Russian state actors and influencers hosted on a primetime TV show, primetime Italian TV show, aired live from Moscow's Red Square on the channel Law 7. And here the actors and influencers advanced the claims that Russia did not start the war and that the Ukraine and the Pentagon are developing bioweapons in Ukraine. Now, just to provide a snapshot of the apparent effects of Russian influence on Italian public opinion, these statistics are quite telling. 56% of Italians blame Russia for the war in Ukraine, and this is actually the lowest in the European Union. 39% of Italians say Russia is the biggest obstacle to peace in Ukraine, while 35% say Ukraine is the biggest obstacle to peace. And this is nearly evenly split. And also 39% of Italians think that Russian authorities are responsible for the invasion of Ukraine. And again, this is quite low for the European region. Countering MDM and influence in the Italian information ecosystem, what we contend, this will require a cross-platform approach. So a cross-platform approach is needed to more fully counter MDM. And why is this the case? Well, what we contend is that a sole focus on social media is insufficient, right? MDM extends beyond social media to traditional platforms, and this is what we're going to see in both of these case studies. And then also a sole focus on censorship is also insufficient. Something that supports this notion is the fact that EU in fact, banned Sputnik and RT. But at the same time, MDM continues to spread in Italy. So first case study we're going to look at is the Russian denial of its involvement in the Bucha massacre. So 8 out of 10 of the most shared posts mentioning Bucha in the Italian information ecosystem were pro-Kremlin, excuse me. And this was found by the Institute of Strategic Dialogue, which also found that this was the highest out of all the 20 countries that they surveyed. And the post appeared to have originated with an Italian war reporter who alleged inconsistencies between the photos and people's account of the massacre. Here, this is quite, I know, a text-heavy slide. We're going to look at a selection of these TTPs in the following slides, but what I encourage you to do is to investigate these more fully in the paper that we wrote, and also to go visit the DISARM framework, an open source framework, and investigate each of these TTPs more fully. But here we see, again, an overview of the TTPs that we see employed by attackers, and also a range of TTPs that we recommend be used by responders who are seeking to counter these MDM campaigns. So first, selection of incident creator or attacker TTP. So we see, again, this false claim made by a Russian state actor on Italian television. So this is facilitating state propaganda through traditional media, specifically television. And all of these are techniques that we see often used in campaigns. And then the same claim is then advanced through formal diplomatic channels, specifically the Russian Ministry of Defense and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And so when we actually look at the content of this claim, we see a lot of these, what I like to call D words, dismissing, right, the Russian involvement in the Bucha massacre, discrediting credible sources, distorting facts, right? All of these D words are things we often see used in MDM campaigns. And then this claim is picked up by an influential Italian war reporter. So here we're seeing a legitimate influencer be baited. And then after the war reporter advances this claim, it is echoed across social media platforms. So here we see this arc, right? This overarching arc of development where the MDM actually moves across platforms. So this cross-platform vector of attack is clearly on display in this campaign, right? Where it's moving from TV, official diplomatic channels, through to an influential Italian influencer, and then being amplified on social media. So here's a selection of some suggested responder TTPs. So first, and this would be quite helpful, is forming an MDM-focused information sharing and analysis center in Italy. And this can help build coalitions with stakeholders and induce third parties. And also advancing the narrative that the Bucha massacre, in fact, plays into a long history of Russian atrocities by using hard evidence. So this is a recommended TTP that involves developing a compelling counter-narrative that is truth-based. Next, you can create incentives, actually, both financial and social incentives for broadcasters on national television to undergo courses that train them to identify and counter instances of MDM. And this is another TTP that we recommend. And then we have what we call naming and shaming, right? So identifying the war reporter who sort of brought this and helped sort of popularize this notion in Italy, and just sort of naming and shaming him, saying, look, this is somebody who's advancing Russian MDM, can also be helpful. The second incident we're going to look at is disinformation alleging U.S. biological laboratories underneath the Azovstal steelworks. So here we see this image on the right, which is actually used throughout this campaign. So this image was alleged to be some sort of map or military plan or hard evidence of the fact that there were, in fact, bioweapons being developed beneath this steel mill. And this was actually shared on several major Italian TV programs. So where does this photo come from? So it appears to have first been used in this context by actually an advisor to Vladimir Putin. And this image is actually not an image of biological laboratories or some sort of rendering of biological laboratories beneath the steel mill. This image actually comes from a board game, the generic universal role-playing system, which is actually a board game. So this image was reappropriated for the purpose of this MDM campaign. And something I want to state that's really important is that this actually draws upon a motif that is used in conspiracy theories dating back to the 1980s that are advanced by Russian actors. And these conspiracies often, in some form or another, allege that the U.S. is creating bioweapons. So just to, again, this is an overview of both attacker and responder TTPs. We're going to go over some of these in the next slides, but again, I encourage you to investigate these more fully. So here's some recommended TTPs that, here are a selection of the attacker TTPs that are used in this campaign. So again, we're seeing a Putin aid sort of begin this campaign. So that's facilitating state propaganda. And this, again, this D word, distort, it's distorting reality. And then it's also distracting from the real issue, right? Which was that the perception that the Ukrainians' last stand at the steel mill was a heroic gesture, something that was distracted from. It's a notion that was distracted from by this quite ridiculous campaign. And then also this campaign leveraged existing conspiracy narratives and suspicions surrounding U.S. biological laboratories, right? Surrounding U.S. use of bioweapons. And again, this goes back to the 80s. So we're seeing a conspiracy being leveraged here. And this is also developing an original conspiracy theory that is playing off of motifs of existing conspiracy theories. And then also, this is responding directly to a breaking news event, an active crisis that was happening at the time, which was, again, the Ukrainians' last stand at this steel mill. And also, again, we're seeing reusing of existing content. Again, this board game graphic was deceptively labeled and used and appropriated for the purposes of this campaign. And again, we're seeing this cross-platform vector of attack where this image is taken up by traditional media. It's the incident creators successfully attack traditional media and have them pretty much continue to amplify this on Italian national TV. Now let's get to selection of suggested responder TTPs. As you saw in an earlier slide, there are many more techniques, tactics, and procedures that can be used by responders, but here's just a brief selection. In the interest of time, we had to only present a few. The first is directly engaging the payload and debunking it, right? So just propagating evidence that this image originates in a fantastical game. And then also you can repurpose the image with new text, so sort of create a counter campaign where, let's say, you create a meme that somehow repurposes this image with new text, let's say that labels it with the original source and sort of points out how ridiculous this campaign is, and then amplifying that meme on social media. And then again, or in addition, a very successful technique is engaging respected influencers to disavow this campaign. So this is again an influencer within the targeted demographic. So saying somebody who is also respected by the target communities, target demographics, and having them publicly disavow this campaign. So to conclude, again, we could spend hours talking about these TTPs, but in the interest of time, just to provide an overview, in both incidents, we're seeing content quickly move across platforms, right? The false claims advanced by Russian state officials are spreading not only through social media, but also through traditional media. So these cross-platform vectors of attack were used in both of these campaigns. And what we contend is that an effective response should accordingly move beyond a sole focus on online platforms. An effective response also needs to take a cross-platform approach. And so counter MDM responders can focus on a range of both long-term and short-term initiatives targeting individual media, individual communities, and individual campaigns, as well as the broader media environment. So taking this cross-platform, whole of society approach is what we contend will strengthen counter MDM efforts across the board moving forward in Italy. So thank you so much. I hope you found this campaign, this presentation to be helpful and informative. And again, I really encourage you to take a look at the paper and also take a look at the DISARM framework, which is quite a powerful tool that counter MDM responders can use to both analyze and facilitate response to campaigns moving forward. So thank you so much.